pocket apply. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next subphylum, which is subphylum Crustacea. So as we go about characteristics, flip over your study guide to the back side and find subphylum Crustacea, and I would suggest you pause the video right here, flip it over, and fill in some of the details about the crustaceans that are specific to them. Some of them they have in common with the other subphylum, like insects and chelicerates, but some are kind of unique to them, like gills. All of our crustaceans use gills. Roly-polies use gills. They just live underneath things to keep their body moist. If they dry out, they're going to die. And we've talked a little bit about the waste removal already. When we look at mouth parts, and this is towards the beginning of your study guide, the chelicerae are the biting, piercing, killing mouth parts. We're going to see that in spiders and in some insects. But mandibles are what many of the arthropods use to chew dead, decomposing material, or maybe they're chewing on plant material with mandibles, where chelicerae are for predators normally. So I'm going to move on to the next slide, and you can always use this slide to help you fill in parts on your study guide. So when we look at our crustaceans, we're not just going to have shrimp and lobsters. We're going to have things like barnacles. And we mentioned the monoecious reproduction strategy in some of the arthropods. And here's some barnacles right here. If we were in the classroom, I would be passing around the goose barnacle. I have some of these, and I do have some of the rock barnacles. These are the ones that you think of attached to whales, attached to piers at the ocean. They have a sessile adult stage, which means they don't move around, and they have a larval stage that swims. So barnacles as adults don't move around, so they have these legs sticking out. So think of a crab or a lobster, kind of make it a weird shape and then flip it on its back, and the legs come out here. And the legs are filter feeders. They bring in the food for the barnacle. Now, what happens then? They also use their legs to exchange sperm. So if you have a couple of barnacles next to each other, they can stick their legs out and exchange sperm with each other, so they still have a type of sexual reproduction. They can also reproduce alone because they contain both male and female parts to produce both the egg and the sperm. That produces this middle larva stage. Here's another look at the barnacles, and you can see the legs are stretching out for reproduction when they have a partner that's close enough to them. All right, here's an example of a land crab. I took a picture of a rainy night in Costa Rica right outside our, you would call them our rooms, our camp. Here's a lobster or a crawdad. We know that we usually dissect crawdads, but we're not in the lab. I believe I do have a crustacean lab dissection that I can post so you can see that as well. First two main claws are called chilipads. You know they have two body segments. Swimmerets are held under the body and help hold either the eggs in the female, or they help with reproduction by inserting sperm into the female. The males have them. They have two swimmerets. They're very large. And I'll show you when we get to that picture for internal fertilization. So when we look at our crustaceans, quite diverse. We have our sow bug, or it might be a pill bug if it rolls up. Those are terrestrial crustaceans, which are called isopods. We have our giant crab we saw at the beginning of the lessons, crawdad, barnacles. This is some type of water flea. Sometimes they are parasitic, living on the bodies of whales. And here is our little hermit crab, which can be both terrestrial, and then there is a marine form that's completely aquatic. I have them in my marine tank at school. This is what their internal parts look like. You can see all the different organs we've mentioned somewhat already. Swimmerets here along the bottom help them swim, and they do swim backwards, and they do walk forward. Swimmerets, this is a female. These swimmerets are soft, they hold the eggs. In a male, there would be two big swimmerets here that would be used to insert sperm. They have a lot of little tiny appendages around the mouth. They have about 6 appendages this way, 6 this way. Here's the mandible in the middle that they use for chewing food, and it moves side to side. You pull one of those structures out, These are the external mouth parts, and then here is the gill as it goes down into the body. So it goes down along the cephalothorax there. So you don't have to know all of these. These were for the lab that we're not going to do. Very sorry, folks. So here's your roly-poly. So you have a lab coming up where you have to find roly-polies or sow bugs. This is what they look like. They're going to be down underneath vegetation, flip over some rocks, and you'll see them. Some of them can roll up into a ball for protection. Sow bugs do not roll up into a ball. They do have those antennae, and you can see the segments and their legs on their segments. These are some more examples of our crustaceans. Quite a diverse group. Some are small, some are big. Copepods, these are egg sacs on a copepod. And they're a good food source for little fish and other organisms, either in freshwater or in marine water. This is a reproductive structure on the antenna of this organism. Pretty crazy. And this one is a parasitic crustacean, believe it or not. And this is showing reproduction. And this is showing some of the parasites that do end up hooking onto some of ours. And here is an external parasite of the crustacean that's living on this fish. And it's right over the operculum on the fish. You cannot tell me that that's good for it. There's some more. They're on the whale. Some are barnacles. Some are these whale lice that are crustaceans. They look a lot like crabs. Human lice. Here's some other ones. Lots of shapes and sizes. Some are free-living. These are little amphipods that you find in freshwater. Fish love to eat them. So that pretty well makes up our crustaceans. So I'm going to stop right here. It was a shorter lesson today. And next we will begin the chelicerates, spiders, scorpions, mites, ticks, and all the creepy crawlies that you never want to hear about.